recently I've noticed I've been, you know, looking on, spending probably too much time on X and seeing a lot of news, and it makes me feel, I'd say, like cynical.
Well, it's better than
Um,
depressed.
yeah.
All right.
And so I'm wondering what,
Well, were we on meditation or something? But go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
yeah, so well, this one relates. So is there, I know the Buddhists have different types of meditations to combat different things, like if you're depressed and or that sort of thing. Is there,
Yeah, but that's
um,
you be careful with that. That's really what's the meditation they recommend if you're depressed?
um,
And
I'm
that,
not sure.
yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, they do in Dharma retreats or in pop Buddhism where they basically use self hypnosis or self congratulations or self talking yourself into something. And I don't subscribe to that, but I don't think
Well,
Buddhism actually does that. So I'd
I
be
have in mind,
go
I
ahead.
think I have in mind like the compassion meditation. I feel
Oh,
like I read
okay.
it in
Well, that's
about it.
exchanging self for others. No, that will make you depressed. Can make you depressed. You got to be careful with that.
Hmm.
You're talking exchanging self for others, or inhaling the sufferings of others and exhaling the tantric practice.
Um, I was thinking the one I had in mind was like the visualization one, like the might be the Tara visualization or
That's not
something.
that doesn't that's not for depression. I mean, early on you could use it for prayer, and I suppose prayer helps. But
Right.
I don't think there's no Buddhism shouldn't be used for psychological problems. Should be, in my opinion, it should be used to cut through all of the problems all at once. Everything. So the problem is the mind was always going to create problems for you. Always going to be conflict
Mm.
in the mind. The nature of the mind is to generate thought. And these thoughts are willy-nilly and a lot of them are just garbage, etc. So the remedy, I mean, it happened again, this is just a side effect of the quest for truth. You realize that your thoughts are just what they are. They're not you. Your thoughts
Mm.
are just like the trees and the clouds and the birds, but they move faster and they appear to be internal to your brain. But so is the external world. If once you transduce it through your eyes and your ears, obviously it goes through the. You're just using most rudimentary models. Everything's represented inside your mind. So these thoughts, if you create a distance from them, they don't bother you. And if you stop judging everything, people judge, and they make themselves miserable. But it's
Mm.
not given to man what's good or bad ultimately, right?
Right.
I mean, something very, very good could happen for the next 2 years, and then it leads to a world war and destroys everything. Or a world war could occur and half the world's destroyed, but the rest of the world grows into this wonderful new creation. We just don't know. So stop judging and stop identifying with your thoughts and don't spend too much time on social media. Never before in human history have we had concentrated on X, it's concentrated news, right? Concentrated information about the world from all over the world. Some of the high
Hmm.
quality information and science and AI and politics and everything. I don't know about Instagram and those things. Those are so toxic. I can't even get too close to them. But limit the dose for one thing, and then the other one is to realize that this is all part of the show. I mean, part of an illusory world. And so the way Buddhism would deal with depression is to say, stop listening to your thoughts and stop being so friggin' judgmental, and don't take things personally, as
Mm.
Miguel Ruiz would say. Zen is very good with this, by the way. And for those who aren't particularly religiously inclined, although they have as its basis, real Buddhism and hardcore Buddhism. At the level of trying to wake up, they don't focus so much on that, but they do focus on the fact that if you get tangled up in all that world out there, you're going to be, it'll mess you up. So be in the world, but not of the world. And that's the art. Have you been meditating much?
A little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. What else is going on? Questions?
Let me see. I guess to follow up on that, my understanding was that you need to have your things in order. You have to be calm enough to be able to have the space and energy to contemplate these things.
Okay. There's two parts. One is you need to be calm enough, and then the second one is these things. I don't know what these things are. Help me out.
To be contemplating your consciousness and self and cutting through.
No, what you need is patience, discipline, effort, insight. The paramitas. You need that. That's what you need. And the rest will take care of itself. Calmness is not a paramita because it's an effect. Mainly of insight. Now, again, it's just one of those benefits, one of those side benefits like art or like better sleep. Another benefit is that you're calmer in life. You don't take things personally, and you're more attractive to other people.
Can we go over the 6 paramitas quickly?
I don't know why we want to do it quickly, but go ahead. Sure. Give me the first one. That you want to go over.
There's patience.
Okay, so let me describe to folks that might be listening. The paramitas is a word for little boats. And the little boats are what take you from this side of the river of relative reality, of the world of pain and suffering and all the angst that we go through and all the turmoil that we create for ourselves in our mind. They take you on the boat to the other side, and the other side is the side of enlightenment and waking up, illumination of peace and of joy. And so these 6 practices are the basic practices that are prescribed. These are the ones prescribed to me by the Mahayana and Tantrayana Buddhists, the Tantric Buddhists of Tibet, way back in the day. And so these 6 are the little boats, and this is it's the thing about these little boats is that they can be cultivated. That's very, very important. Some things in psychology you can't change. You can't change your basic temperament. You can't change your IQ too much. Well, actually you can, but again, that's a side benefit of Dharma. But these other things you can consciously cultivate, and they become stronger and stronger and stronger, and they take you to the other side. All right, first one, patience, forbearance.
I just want to note something before we continue. I just realized, and something I wanted to mention was, you mentioned in another video how some people go through life wanting to, they're always in a hurry to do this or that. And I sort of identified with that, and like just now as an example, it's like, can we go through these quickly? And I identify with this kind of feeling of always need to almost rush to get something done or to get to the next place.
Right, and it's almost a universal human characteristic, at least in the modern world, always thinking about the next moment instead of being in the present. And so
Mm-hmm.
let's just do the paramitas for the sake of the audience. We have patience or forbearance. We have effort, have discipline. We have, those are the hard ones. And then we have meditation or contemplation, and insight, and generosity. Generosity towards oneself and towards others. Now, these 6 things, and you can go into them more deeply and DM me if you want to know about any, or get a hold of me on YouTube or X if you want to know more about any of these in particular. But these are universal practices that if you cultivate these qualities or these capacities, they all interact with each other. See, without the generosity, you're not going to have the wherewithal of your spirit to cultivate the insight. And without a little bit of discipline, you're not going to be able to learn enough to get some insight. And without patience, those 2 things aren't going to work either. And so they all interlock, and it's a beautiful system. It's been around for more than 2,000 years. So now, cultivating these 6, you prepare yourself for awakening, basically. And if you cultivated them all the way, you would awaken. So these, and the thing that's nice about them is like lifting weights. The more you do it, the bigger your muscles get. So it's not like something you can't change. These are things that in particular you can change and cultivate. So if you practice patience, say at the grocery store, or while you're driving, or with your wife or your husband, then your ability to be patient gets stronger. So these 6 paramitas are the kind of the building blocks of a solid. You could say it's a spiritual practice, or you could say it's a good life. Because you need all these things anyway. Okay, sir. Now, how does this relate to you, I guess, is the real question here. Because otherwise we're going to get too general.
Well, what does it mean to follow them all the way?
Well, if you had enough insight, you'd wake up. If you had enough discipline, you'd wake up. If you had enough generosity, you would wake up. But you'd have to drill down on what they really mean by generosity.
Right.
Patience, if you wait long enough, you're going to wake up when you die, one way or the other, right? So I don't know about that one. Okay, but the question is, how does this apply? See, where people can learn here is, how does this apply with an individual person? Otherwise, we're just speaking platitudes, and you can get that anywhere. And there's people much better at it than me. For example, Eckhart Tolle, I'd recommend that guy for basics. But what is his message? Be here now, right? The same as Ram Dass, the same as everybody, right? Everything happens in the present. So you're wasting your life spending it in the what are you going to be doing next, the near future. Someone asked me yesterday, why do people get caught up in their pasts? And that's a great question. A lot of people do. And the answer is not simple, but that's the kind of, but my point is that if you're caught up in the past or the future, you've missed the whole thing. So you got to be here now. All right. So right here now, what questions do you have for me?
Well, for me, I noticed, like with my work, I have to get things done quickly, and I have to spend time being concerned about how fast something's going to get done, because they compound on each other. And so I'm wondering, maybe that bleeds into the rest of my life, or that that sort of thinking bleeds over into things where
that's one component. But what about the people around you? Are they chronically rushing? Or thinking about the next thing while they're doing this thing?
Not all of them, no.
All right. Well, hang around with the ones who aren't like that.
Yeah. I guess
rushing through anything doesn't really make it any better, and oftentimes it leads to mistakes. Take it from an old man. Make haste slowly, calmly, and you get more done.
I think I see it the most in the tech culture.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's confusing because you see so many like advancement. I mean, with AI, it's like there's an advancement every week, and then so there's this feeling that if I don't rush, I'm not going to keep up.
But that's a false feeling. Also, if you took the time that you waste during the day, and you used it to calmly learn about how to do the things, or learn from, learn and develop these paramitas, you'd find, in fact, that you're more effective. Look at a great CEO. Some of these guys are, they're in charge of huge organizations that are moving very, very quickly. They don't rush. That's why they're CEO. Yeah, you don't see them frantic because they've learned. They typically are older, and they've learned that you don't get anywhere with that. So discipline yourself, or police yourself, or Buddhicize yourself or something. But it takes effort.
What do you mean?
Just be here now. Now is all you need. Now is all you get anyway. So your now can be full of anxiety, or it can be full of downness, Okay, sir? You're young, you'll learn these things.
Yeah.
Imagine an older man rushing around like with a chicken with his head cut off. What would you think of that guy?
There'd be something wrong with him.
Yeah, exactly. So just grow up sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Be the calm one in the group. Okay, but this isn't self-help. We're trying to get to truths.
Okay.
And then the self-help will take care of itself. Ha ha. Drop the self and you don't have to worry about self-help. Yeah. Yeah, let the self take care of itself with the wastebasket, Okay, question?
Okay. What is the role of Dharma with regards to sex? Is there more
for whom?
Than for a man and woman in a relationship?
Have better sex. More conscious sex.
So
go ahead.
Is there more to it than just being present?
Try it with all you got, both people, both of yous, and let me know if you want some improvement, right? But generally that takes care of it. Sure. And then later, if people are dedicated, you could do some tantra if you got a real relationship built on love, and you trust each other. But that's advanced. Try this first. Get your mind out of there. The mind has no place in sex.
I mean, yeah, that's obvious.
I'm probably going to regret saying that later. Okay. But yeah, you don't need your mind for sex.
Okay. What is tantra exactly?
Did you see that? Do you see that X meme of those hedgehogs making love?
No.
They got those spines all over them. Those guys need their minds for sex. Right? But you don't have to worry about spines, so just knock yourself out, but just be conscious and present, and be with each other. Meld. This is the most natural thing in the world. Don't mess it up with theory. Just be there. 100% completely present. In the present. And if you love the other person, you're thinking about them, obviously. And if you're doing it right, then there's a merging. That's why you see what Bodhisattva looks like? Is the Buddha, and he's got his consort sitting on his lap, like in full penetration. That's the merger of yin and yang, of the positive and the of the male and the female. And there's transcendence. Can, you know, I mean, it's a weak form of it, but there's something there. It doesn't hurt. Put it that way. Not necessary, but it doesn't hurt. Okay. Sex, art. What's next? Drugs, rock and roll.
What do you recommend I read right now?
What are you reading currently?
I'm in the process of reading the Flower Ornament Scripture.
Yeah, I would read that. And if you want to spice it up, I'd spice it up with either Instant Zen, which is also available on Audible, or Dream Conversations.
Okay.
Both good books, both definitive texts on Zen, by the way, translated from the original, and both available. This one's available on Audible. This is a better. Well, I shouldn't say that. But those two, one were for when you're reading, one were when you're driving or whatever at first, and then you'll want to dig deeper. So always get the physical book and the Audible book if you can afford it, and you can. So that's what I'd recommend. But the Flower Ornament, where are you in the Avatamsaka?
Book 36, The Practice of Universal Good.
Okay, Samantha Barbara. Okay, so the Flower Ornament is such that you don't realize what it's truly doing until much later. And what it does, if you actually read this book correctly, it'll wake you up itself, right? But this book is having a psychoactive effect on the capacity of your mind. It's not like other books that you read for entertainment or you get gratification right away or whatever, although it can be very calming and very beautiful. It's a sutra, after all. But you won't know until later how valuable that book was when you start studying other things like, well, I don't want to go into it. I don't want to plant ideas, but that's like plowing and fertilizing and watering and planting the field. And so you don't know yet. So you can spice it up with a few others. All right? Let's stick with Buddhism for now. Other questions?
Okay, with regards to discipline, I feel like that's one of the paramitas that I have a harder time with, I think.
That's why they call it discipline. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I know
unless you're an obsessive, then you have no problem with it. But they need something else. They need more insight.
Yeah. And then the other thing,
generosity.
Noticed, like,
usually generosity. Go ahead.
The mornings are particularly difficult for me and always have been. Even when I was in high school, just waking up to catch the bus every day was a struggle. And now these days, it's like waking up in the morning and trying to start my day properly.
You mean with a walk outdoors? Start your day properly with a walk outdoors or something?
Or anything that would be good for me, like either sitting to meditate or a walk outdoors, or just,
what's the first? What do you do in the first hour after you've woken up?
I take my phone and I read the news.
Oh my God, man, that's the worst thing you can possibly do. No wonder you don't want to get up. I wouldn't want to get up for that crap. No, don't do that. Don't ruin your day with that. I mean, when your mind is completely dead, then maybe take a look at the news. When your mind's no good for anything else, but even then, no, don't do that in the morning. No.
And so if I don't, then I'll usually lay in bed for.
Get up, go outside, take a walk. Do you drink coffee?
Hmm.
All right, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, and take a walk outside in the early morning before it gets too hot.
Hmm.
Yeah, have something to look forward to in the morning. Good God, if you're going to get up and just have your brain pummeled by the garbage they call news, then yeah, it would ruin anybody's morning. Don't do that.
Hmm.
Make There's got to be something that you want to get up for, and it takes a
Right.
while. But once you get that habit, then you're going to miss your morning sunrises or your morning walks or the peace or whatever before the cars start running around and all that stuff. Yeah, have something to look forward to first of all. So I think that's the first step. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, to wake up to be
And
punished, that doesn't make any sense at all. And that the news is punishing.
yeah. So it makes sense. But I mean, I've tried this in the past,
Oh, here we go to the past
and
again. Ooh, ooh, ding, 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 ding. No good. Can't
well,
go to the
so what I
past.
noticed.
Don't go to the past with the authority on anything.
Mm.
Otherwise, you'll live your life in a rut. Also, if you've lived long enough, you'll know that there's these phases that you go through. I'm not a morning person, or I wasn't.
Right.
But then in my life, there's been probably 5 or 6 times, extended periods, when I couldn't get enough of the morning, right? The morning walk or the morning meditation or the morning study or whatever. The morning was glorious. And then I'm basically nocturnal. And if it's going to be hot all day or something like that, then yeah, I like probably something like you, and more towards nocturnal. But that doesn't mean there'll be long phases. There won't be long phases where you adore the mornings.
Mm.
Let you be free it all up, man. When people say I'm like this or I'm like that, it's like, ouch. Oh.
Mm. Right. But can it not be useful in understanding yourself if you do notice?
What self? I mean,
I
yeah,
don't.
understand yourself and then throw in the waistband, man. Who the hell cares about the self? Really? The self is just a collection of ideas, arbitrary ideas that you've collected along the way, and God knows where you've been and what kinds of things you've picked up. But it's kind of like
Mm.
bacteria, it's just ideas from other people, ideas from X, ideas from, or from social media, or TV or books or movies or pop songs or well, this is what's important. You got to be famous or you got to be rich or you got to be this or that. That's just garbage, man. Who needs it? Get rid of it. You don't need it. You don't need. I mean, thought itself is a problem. I mean, when you really get down to it, I mean, who wants garbage running through their mind all day? It's like a sewer running through there. Even if they're good thoughts, you don't need them.
Mm.
So it sounds like you need to just get more serious about true growth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be worried about preserving or defining yourself. Forget about it. Forget about it. Okay?
Hmm. No, one sense.
Why don't you read a little flower ornament for folks?
Sure.
Yeah, because you seem off this morning a bit. Or maybe I'm off. We're off.
Yeah.
I don't think it's me.
Though my sleep has been off.
Okay, sir.
How much should I read?
Just read something nice. And then ask a question about it maybe or something.
Okay, I'll just start here. Um, this is the practice of universal good. At that time, the great enlightening being,
Oh, just
universal
a second.
good.
Just 1 second. Universal good is the name of a bodhisattva. It's a translation, I believe, of Samanta Babra from the Sanskrit. And one of the great things about the flower ornament, it doesn't have all these weird, untranslated terms in it. So universal good is a bodhisattva. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
At that time, the great enlightening being, Universal Good, also said to the great congregation of enlightening beings, "Offspring of Buddha, what has been expounded up till now is just a brief exposition of a little bit of the realm of Buddhas, adapted so as to be appropriate to the faculties and capacities of sentient beings. Why? The Buddhas emerge in the world because sentient beings are ignorant and do what is bad. They conceive of self and possessions, they cling to the body, they are deluded and confused, they discriminate on the basis of false views, and are always in bondage, following the flow of birth and death away from the path of enlightenment. I do not see anything that is a bigger mistake than for enlightening beings to become angry at other enlightening beings. Why? Because if enlightening beings become angry at other enlightening beings, that creates a million obstacles. What are those million obstacles? They are the obstacle of not seeing enlightenment, the obstacle of not hearing the true teaching, the obstacle of being born in an impure world, the obstacle of being born in miserable states, the obstacle of being born in places where it is difficult to become enlightened, the obstacle of sickliness, the obstacle of being the object of much slander, the object of being born stupid, the obstacle of loss of right mindfulness and recollection, the obstacle of lack of intelligence, obstacles of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, the obstacle of bad advisors, the obstacle of bad companions, the obstacle of inclination towards practices of individualistic liberation, the obstacle of an inclination towards associating with the vulgar, the obstacle of not believing in people of great spiritual power, the obstacle of living with people who have strayed from correct perception, the obstacle of being born in a family of heretics, the obstacle of dwelling in the realm of demons, the obstacle of being estranged from the right teaching of Buddha, the obstacle of not seeing good companions, the obstacle of blockage of roots of goodness, the obstacle of increase of bad conditions, the obstacle of meanness, the obstacle of being born in a remote area, the obstacle of being born in a family of evil people, the obstacle of being born among evil spirits, evil ghosts, hobgoblins, demons, titans, vipers, and so on, the obstacle of not caring for the Buddha teaching, the obstacle of habituation to infantile behavior, the obstacle of clinging to the small vehicle of individual salvation, the obstacle of not liking the great vehicle of universal salvation, the obstacle of fearfulness, the obstacle of anxiety, the obstacle of clinging to mundane routines, the obstacle of not concentrating on the way to enlightenment, the obstacle of not liking to see or hear of the spiritual powers of Buddha, the obstacle of not acquiring the faculties of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not applying the purifying practices of enlightening beings, the obstacle of shrinking from the determination of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not making the great vow of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not developing the determination for omniscience, the obstacle of slacking off from the practice of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not being able to purify acts, the obstacle of not being able to incorporate great virtues, the obstacle of the power of knowledge not being clear and keen, the obstacle of shutting off great wisdom and knowledge, the obstacle of not preserving the practice of enlightening beings, the obstacle of the inclination to repudiate all words of wisdom, the obstacle of estrangement from the enlightenment of the Buddhas, the obstacle of an inclination to abide in the realms of demons, the obstacles of not concentrating on cultivating the realm of Buddhahood, the obstacle of not definitely making the universal commitment of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not liking to live with enlightening beings, the obstacle of not seeking the roots of goodness of enlightening beings, the obstacle of being opinionated and suspicious, the obstacle of the continual befuddlement of the mind, the obstacle of being willing to give because of inability to practice the impartial generosity of enlightening beings, the obstacle of transgression of precepts by being unable to maintain the precepts of the Buddha, the obstacle of foolish malevolence and anger due to inability to achieve tolerance and forbearance, the obstacle of defilement of laziness due to the inability to act with the great vigor of enlightening beings, the obstacle of distraction and confusion due to inability to attain concentration, the obstacle of misused intellect due to failure to cultivate transcendent wisdom, the obstacle of lack of familiarity with what is so and what is not so, the obstacle of having no means to liberate beings, the obstacle of inability to contemplate the knowledge of enlightening beings, the obstacle of not knowing enlightening beings' means of emancipation, the obstacle of failure to develop the 10 great eyes of enlightening beings and therefore being as if blind, the obstacle of being dumb as an animal due to not hearing the teaching of non-obstructions, the obstacle of destruction of the nose due to not having the marks and embellishment of Buddhahood, the obstacle of inability to understand speech and the consequence, inability to speak, the obstacle of physical problems due to demeaning sentient beings, the obstacle of mental problems due to lack of control of mind, the obstacle of physical actions due to not keeping the precepts, the obstacle of verbal actions due to continually committing faults of speech, the obstacle of mental actions due to conceiving much covetousness, anger, and erroneous views, the obstacle of seeking the teaching with a thieving mind, the obstacle of cutting off the perspective of enlightening beings, the obstacle of shrinking from the effort of enlightening beings, the obstacle of laziness of mind on the enlightening being's way to emancipation, the obstacle of the mind stopping at the entry of the light of knowledge of enlightening beings, the obstacle of becoming weak-minded and incapable of the recollective power of enlightening beings, the obstacle of being unable to retain the teaching of the Buddha, the obstacle of being unable to approach enlightening beings' path of detachment from birth, the obstacle of inability to cultivate the incorruptible path of enlightening beings, the obstacle of following the absolute state of one-sided detachment, the obstacle of estrangement from the family of the Buddhas and enlightening beings of all times. If an enlightening being conceives a single feeling of anger towards enlightening beings, that produces a million obstacles such as these. Why? I do not see anything that is a big mistake as for enlightening beings to become angry at other enlightening beings. Therefore, if great enlightening beings want to quickly fulfill the practices of enlightening beings, they should diligently practice 10 principles. In their minds, they should not abandon sentient beings. They should think of enlightening beings as Buddhas. They should never slander any teachings of the Buddhas. They should know that there is no end to different lands. They should be profoundly devoted to enlightening beings. They should not give up the cosmic space-like impartial mind of enlightenment. They should contemplate enlightenment and enter the power of Buddhas. They should cultivate unobstructed intellectual and expository powers. They should teach and enlightening beings tirelessly. They should live in all worlds without attachment in their minds.
Beautiful. So, you happened to pick a passage, which is fine, on obstacles. That was the long one that you read. And you could see how they inundate you with this chant, this rhythm of obstacles, 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 and then in your mind deeply you're aware of obstacles to learning and to penetration. But then they follow it up with what you should do, don't they? Or what was the last part you were reading?
Yeah, if an enlightening being conceives a single feeling of anger towards enlightening beings,
Right.
it produces obstacles.
Okay, so the anger, the obstacle of anger becomes deeply. I mean, it's deeply embedded how much of an obstacle anger is, and either now or later you give up anger. I mean, you stop being angry, which is another form of forbearance, right? Which is forbearance or patience, right? They're one of the paramitas. Now, this book, through this method of basically it's reprogramming. It's being reprogrammed by the Buddhists, and so that part, I suppose you could call that a limitation, I suppose. But it teaches you it teaches in a different manner. So anger and obstacles, I mean, this is a small passage that you read, right? And it wasn't one of the beautiful, glorious, the colors and the flowers and the clouds of incense and all the beautiful, how beautiful it gets, right? It's intoxicating. Talk about art and Dharma. But for people who have never been exposed to this book, it's a precious, precious object of art, of teaching, of education, of inculcation, of learning. It's hard to overstate the value of this thing to humanity. And like so many things that are truly precious to us, we don't care because we're busy thinking about whether you're going to go to Dunkin' Donuts or to some other or Denny's. So I like the one about the obstacle of associating with the vulgar. That's, see what I mean about X? I mean, so you see, that's an obstacle.
Yeah.
Social media is an obstacle, right?
Relate to a lot of them.
So Well, thank you. That was refreshing, if nothing else, and it also may give people a taste, but not a taste of the beauty of it. I mean, this was more of a like down and dirty. Okay, let's deal with anger and the obstacles that it creates, and how many obstacles that are avoidable obstacles to our growth, our learning, our happiness, our joy, and the end of our suffering. What are the obstacles to getting there? And it just spells it out. And it, whether you're there or not, if you just read it out loud, you have to be somewhat present to just read it, right? And so that's how it works. And it works as sutra. Now, these folks have been doing this for a long time, since the 2nd century. And so they know how to get things done in the human psyche. And so they get together in groups, small groups, or just one person, and they would chant this together. And the energy of that, also the rhythm of it, it's hard to describe it to folks, but if you do this for half an hour, 2 hours, or whatever, that rhythm starts to penetrate your cells, your nervous system, your bones, your heart, your mind. You become saturated with it, and that transforms a person. But they see that the book looks thick, and these days we're scared of books that are thick. It's a great tragedy. But it's not like other books, as people might get a flavor of now. Okay, follow-up questions before we stop? Thank you very much for
that. Just a minor question. The term enlightening being.
Bodhisattva. That's a bodhisattva.
It's a bodhisattva. But
an enlightening being. See, this is instead, because so bodhisattva is not a word that most people know, unless you're familiar with it. What's that song? Bodhisattva, take me by the hand. What is that song? There was a popular song that had the word bodhisattva. Other than that, people don't have any idea what a bodhisattva is. But a bodhisattva is an enlightened being, someone who's awoken, who then awakens others. That's why they're called enlightening beings, bodhisattvas. Now, they play a huge role in Mahayana Buddhism. I mean, that's the difference between Mahayana Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism, or the Tantrayana, or the Sutrayana of this sort. And so these beings are like, it's a huge topic, because there's clouds of bodhisattvas in reality. In the reality of the Avatamsaka, there's worlds of them, and there's them walking among us, and then they're like angels, or they're like, oh, you can't do it justice, so I won't even try. But it just translates as bodhisattva into Sanskrit.
They seem to refer to enlightening beings as like the student trying to wake up.
No, they're the ones who are trying to help the student to wake up. The bodhisattvas are already awakened.
Then why does it talk about enlightening beings having obstacles?
Where does the enlightening being have an obstacle?
If an enlightening being...
Oh, yeah. For teaching purposes. Just for teaching purposes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and also an enlightened being, like it's not a Buddha. It's not yet a Buddha. It's like an angel's not Jesus or God, right? So they're intermediate beings. They're on their way to becoming Buddhas, and one of the things that they do is they try and help others. It's a beautiful mentality, very, very Christian, if I might say, or Muslim, if I might say so myself. Okay, sir. And so good question. And any other questions like that we can get out of the way?
No, not right now. I have to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have a meeting. Okay. Adios. Take good care.
Okay.
Guard your mind.
Thank you.
And the mornings, you have one every day. So master that puppy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Ciao.
Okay.
Bye.